Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to unpack a very specific, very technical and very revealing story, how Russia is trying to turn stranded energy in the Far East and the Arctic into data centers, mining farms, and maybe, if someone remembers chemistry, into real industry. On the surface it looks like a story about digital economy and AI. Underneath it's about what you do with energy you can't sell in regions where half the year is night. The other half is logistics, and interest rates at home are trying to kill investment. Let's go step by step. The formal starting shot was simple. The president publicly says we need to supply the digital economy, build data centers and local generation, and use locked-in resources, energy that is too far, too expensive, or too awkward to ship anywhere profitably. Translation into normal language. We have a lot of megawatts where people don't, and people where megawatts don't. Let's move servers to the megawatts. Then, a working group is announced in government. But the interesting part is that energy companies move faster than the bureaucracy, which is already a rare zoological event. Before the speech ink was dry, one deal was already signed, and another one was almost physically under construction. So this is not just conference talk. The machinery is moving. Case 1. Magadan Region. RusHydro controls the Kolyma Cascade, or approximately 910 megawatts at one hydro plant, or approximately 570 megawatts at another. For decades, they couldn't fully load this capacity. No consumers, no industry, no one needs this much power in the middle of nowhere. Then, RusHydro signs an agreement with AFK Sistema to power data centers. 150 megawatts guaranteed with redundancy. Hydropower as the source. All the digital part, data centers, mining, IT, whatever the exact label is, sits on the Sistema side. What does this really mean? For RusHydro, a long-term stable anchor consumer for stuck megawatts. Less dependence on state-regulated tariffs and cross-subsidies. For the region, Magadan, which is historically associated with labor camps and logistics nightmares, suddenly becomes a node of the digital economy. For the green crowd, electricity is 100% hydro, no smokestacks, no thermal emissions, zero CO2 drama at the generation point. On paper, it's elegant, stranded hydropower, fixed digital load, revenue, less need for budget band-aids. The irony is that it took 34 years of construction at one of these hydropower stations, and only now someone found a large-scale consumer. This is what happens when planning meets inertia and finally collides with necessity. Case 2, Central Yakutia, village of Kysyl-Syr. Owned by YATEK, Yakut Fuel and Energy Company, controlled by A Property, the same group that turned the Elga coal project from a frozen asset into a full-scale industrial cluster. Coal production up tenfold, nearly 600 kilometers of private rail, port, airport, washing plants, all without begging the state for subsidies. Now they want to do something similar with gas. First stage, 200 megawatts of gas-fired power for a digital project. Target capacity up to 2,000 megawatts. Key facts: recoverable gas reserves in their licensed blocks, approximately 800 billion cubic meters, with potential toward 1 trillion if exploration progresses. Current production, approximately 2 billion cubic meters per year. With the digital project fully ramped, annual gas monetization could reach plus 5.5 billion cubic meters, roughly 4 times current output. In other words, they are trying to convert too remote to use gas into 1. Electricity for data centers/mining, and 2. A long-term cash flow to justify further exploration and infrastructure. And unlike the hydro project, gas has an extra gift attached: massive waste heat. 2 gigawatts electrical output at approximately 40% efficiency means about 3 gigawatts of heat. In a region where 9 months are winter and logistics are a bad joke, that amount of heat is absurdly large. If you only use it to heat a small town and some warehouses, you're just burning money in a very expensive fireplace. This is where the next layer comes in. Why do all these digital projects suddenly appear not near Moscow, but in Magadan, Norilsk, Yakutia, and other spots where even navigation apps get depressed. 3 structural reasons. First, climate. ASICs and servers love cold. At -40 to -50 degrees Celsius, cooling is essentially free. Open a wall, pull cold air in, push hot air out. In milder regions, you spend a noticeable chunk of your electricity just on cooling your own hardware. Second, tariffs and the central bank. Across Russia, electricity tariffs in the last 2 years have been increased well above official inflation. Add transmission tariffs, cross-subsidies, and all the usual intermediaries, and digital projects in central regions carry a heavy cost per kilowatt hour. At the same time, monetary policy is deliberately cooling the economy with high rates. Easy investment funds don't exist. So if you have cash from mining or other high-margin sectors, you're pushed to either park it and watch it rot under inflation and currency risk, or tie it into long-term real assets. Hence the logic: mine, cash out, invest in your own power plus data center, lock in cheap generation cost. Third, technically isolated territorial power systems, TITEs. A significant part of Russia is not connected to the unified grid in any meaningful way. In these isolated systems, the law allows direct contracts between generator and consumer. No resellers, no regional retail companies, no long tariff chains. So in TITEs, you generate, I consume, we sign a bilateral deal. Everyone else can go index their tariffs somewhere else. That's exactly what we see. RusHydro, Sistema in Magadan, YATEK, private partner in Yakutia with direct power supply for digital projects. It's not ideological, it's just a place where legislation accidentally allows normal business logic. Let's touch the word people love to shout at: cryptocurrency. In legal terms, licensed mining, paying taxes, and working under white contracts is legal. If someone doesn't like it, the question is directed to Parliament and the government, not to Telegram comments. In practical terms, people who abandoned steal power and mine in someone else's basement understand very well how volatile this game is. You mine, you cash out. And if you have basic survival instinct, you don't leave everything sitting on some exchange. With a closed financial system, high interest rates, and limited access to external markets, the rational path is mine, cash out, enter equity/JV deals with industrial projects that have physical assets but lack cheap capital. So crypto money, central bank policy, and stranded energy assets, which all look unrelated, start to form a chain. Monetary policy squeezes cheap credit. High tariffs punish digital projects in central regions. TITEs, plus stranded hydropower/gas, offer cheaper kilowatt hours via direct contracts. Mining capital and energy companies meet in joint projects in the middle of nowhere. You don't have to like any of the participants. Structurally, the mechanism works. Now the interesting part: 3 gigawatts of waste heat in Yakutia. Digital projects don't need it. Humans there don't need that much of it. Logistics don't allow you to export heat. The only way to not waste it completely is to convert it into another energy-intensive product that stores well, ships well, and has global demand. The obvious candidate is chemistry: ammonia, NH3, and then urea, basic nitrogen fertilizers. Gas gives you methane, CH4, which gives you hydrogen. Air gives you nitrogen. Catalysts and energy give you ammonia, then urea granules. Fertilizers are always in demand, are easy to stockpile, and sell into multiple markets: Russia, China, India, everywhere that still prefers eating to ideology. So the long-term structural picture in Yakutia could look like this: 1, gas field; 2, power plant; 3, data center/mining as anchor consumer; 4, waste heat plus extra gas; 5, chemical complex, ammonia, urea; 6, exportable product and local jobs. You turn a digital economy in the tundra into an integrated energy digital chemical cluster. Will they actually do it? Unknown. But from a systems point of view, that's the only scenario where a 2,000 megawatt gas plus digital project in the middle of nowhere makes full economic sense. If we strip away patriotic speeches and green slogans, what do we see? Stranded hydropower in Magadan gets a long-delayed consumer, data centers, Stranded gas in Yakutia gets a monetization plan, power plus mining, maybe later chemistry. Technically isolated grids provide a legal loophole for direct contracts, bypassing an overcomplicated tariff system. High interest rates and restrictive financial conditions unintentionally push private capital into exactly these strange long-term hard asset projects. The much advertised pivot to the east acquires a specific shape, not just pipelines and slogans, but megawatts, containers with servers, and potentially fertilizer plants in places that were sleeping on their own resources for decades. Is it a magic solution? No. Is it a structural move? Yes. And structurally, it's the most interesting thing happening in that space right now. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and try to remember, slogans don't power grids, systems do. YouTube description: cold, power and hash rate. How Russia turns frozen nowhere into the new digital frontier. In this episode, I break down how Russia is trying to convert stranded energy in remote regions into digital infrastructure and, potentially, real industry. We look at two key cases: Magadan Region, RusHydro and AFK Sistema link underused hydropower capacity to a 150 megawatt data center project using clean hydroelectricity via direct contracts in an isolated grid. Central Yakutia, Kysyl-Syr, YATEK plans up to 2,000 megawatts of gas-fired generation for data centers and mining, sitting on hundreds of billions of cubic meters of gas reserves and several gigawatts of waste heat that logically point toward ammonia/urea production. I explain how technically isolated power systems, TITEs, high domestic tariffs and monetary policy, white legal mining, and frozen geography combine into a new model: mine, cash out, invest in power plus digital capacity at the resource base. No cheering, no demonizing, just a structural look at why data centers, mining farms, and fertilizer plants might start showing up not near capitals but on the edge of the map.